Welcome to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Joining me today are guests just striving to dominate in their personal and professional lives while answering the question, what does it mean to be fearlessly made? Welcome back to Fearlessly Made You. I am your host, Kristie Tobias. Fearlessly Made You, for those of you that are new to our podcast and to our show, has been based on the spinoff of my book, Fearlessly Made You, which is about my journey with post-traumatic stress disorder, and really the conversation around how do we own our fearless existence without letting fear own us. It doesn't mean that we're not without fear. It just means that we don't allow fear to own the journey that we're taking. One of the things that I love about Fearlessly Made You is that I get the opportunity to bring on some amazing people and guests who really inspire me. They are people that I admire throughout the community and throughout my life. And in that inspirational group of people, I am so excited and privileged to have one of my dear friends, Nikki Miller-Ka. So Nikki Miller-Ka and I go back, I was counting this, over a decade. We go back over a decade, back to my days when I grew up in North Carolina. And so Nikki actually is one of the people that truly is so near and dear to my heart, because one of the things I love in life is food. And Nikki embodies just the beauty and expertise around food. She is a former executive producer and host of her own TV show. She is an associate editor at foodandwine.com, and she's a member of the James Beard Foundation Restaurant and Chef Committee. On top of that, she's a world traveler, an amazing pizza lover, just like I am. So without further ado, I am excited to bring onto the show a dear friend, someone who truly embodies the Fearlessly Made You journey, Nikki Miller-Ka. Nikki, welcome to Fearlessly Made You.
Hi.
How are you, my friend?
I am so happy to be invited and to actually be here. And I'm doing great.
Oh, wonderful. So the thing that I do love about Nikki too is her energy is infectious. You can feel it just coming off. We're virtually together, but you can feel that energy in everything she does. And she, again, has been just one of those people who have brought joy to my life. So Nikki, I would love for people to know just so much more about you and your journey. You know, we started talking about, love for food. And I feel like you, just from the time that we've met, I think we've shared that together. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about who you are in your journey so our Fearlessly Made You crew can get to know you?
So I'm a lot of things. I tell people, so I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I wasn't born here, but I was bred here. Lots of bread. I eat it all the time.
Same.
Yes, I'm actually Winston-Salem's first food blogger.
Yes.
None before, many after, but I am the best.
Yes. And let's hold on that too, because I want everyone to get full appreciation. Winston-Salem, North Carolina's first food blogger. We need to have full appreciation for that. And I will say this bluntly, and I feel like you'll be totally fine with this. I think not only first food blogger, but also as a Black woman in the food industry and someone who's owning that journey in the food industry, I think there's something beautiful to be said about that too. So I'm always going to push that as well as a reminder for people of being in an industry probably where you probably don't see a lot of you. You may see some of you behind the scenes, but seeing someone like you owning it, I'm so excited to talk about that too. But go ahead, continue. But I just had to plug that.
So I have always wanted to be a food writer. That was my main goal in life, pretty much. And the way to get there was through food. I love food. Absolutely. I have always wanted to be a journalist, writer, something in the communication space, even if it was like a radio DJ or something like that. As long as I was communicating things to people, that's how I want to do it. And doing it through food is the best. And so my journey has been, I feel long and varied. My foundation is really solid. That was really important to me.
Yep.
Going up and trying to get up into the food world. But again, I live in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. It is not a food center of the U.S. It's not New York or Miami or LA or Seattle. It's Winston-Salem, North Carolina, which is home of the Krispy Kreme donut
Yes.
and Texas Pete hot sauce.
Let's be very clear. Those are two very important items in life. Krispy Kreme donut and Texas Pete hot sauce. They are not a sponsor of this show, but they are delicious items.
Yes. As well as Hanes brand, which is, like Hanes underwear. Also manufactured and here in Winston-Salem. But as far as like actual like food, as in a destination, as in game changer, not really. Yeah. And so I didn't know how my dreams could be realized.
Yeah.
And I just made my own way. So there's honestly no one who does what I do.
Yeah.
So I've done it all. I've been a baker, a butcher, a server, a line cook, biscuit maker, name it, I've done it. And I did it not because I wanted to, but I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
So, and the reason why I felt like I had to is because if you're going to talk about restaurants or the hospitality industry or anything that has deeply entrenched culture, you need to know that culture. You just can't come off the cuff and just say what you want to say and then that'll be that. It was very important for me to have the foundation and the facts to back it up. So
I love that.
I went to East Carolina University for undergrad.
Yes. And I want to pause real quick because I don't want to miss this point that you made that I think is really important. So as we think about the journey of being fearlessly made, and we'll talk about this in deeper context, one of the things that I love is embracing who you are and embracing the culture that you experience within yourself, but also around other people. And so, Nikki, I love that you say to be good at what you do, you had to embrace other cultures and you had to really understand that. So before we go to the East Carolina journey, I kind of want to pause there. I think there's something important there because I think especially now we find ourselves in our country and, across the world in a place where embracing each other is necessary for us to survive. And not to get super political or anything like that, but I just think there is such power in heart in what you just said. And I'd love to touch a little bit further on what that has looked like for you. So what does that journey look like for you in embracing other cultures and kind of expanding what your understanding is of different cultures?
So in the food world, especially the hospitality industry, first of all, it's changing. Well, the whole world is changing.
Yes.
We are experiencing a cultural shift right now. I liken it to how our parents and grandparents went through the 60s and 70s and how, civil rights and women's rights. And even now we're going through the same thing again.
Exactly.
And it was such an upheaval. And the 60s was such a huge turn of the tide in a lot of different ways. And we're experiencing that now, but we've got technology on top of it. And we're more cosmopolitan now. I don't know the percentage of people that have passports, but we're traveling. It doesn't take 72 hours for news from one side of the world to get to the other. Absolutely. It takes 72 seconds.
Yes.
It's wild. And being entrenched in the hospitality industry, it's a whole nother world. And it was not pleasant. Not pleasant in any way, shape, or form. The industry has been and still is largely white and male and toxic. Mm-hmm. And entering into the industry, knowing all three of those things and still trying to eke out a place for myself was difficult. Mm-hmm. And this is me coming from, my background. So I grew up Catholic, mm-hmm. and I went to Catholic school, grade school, all the way up. So, there was a little hiccup in 7th grade, which is a fun story, but I don't know if I want to share it on this podcast.
That'll be another episode.
Yeah.
That'll be the uncut version.
Yes. So all the way up, I had Catholic friends in Catholic school, in my Catholic bubble. I was the only Black kid in my class until 6th grade.
Wow.
And so in order to make sure I didn't lose my identity and that I could find out who I was, my parents were really good about putting me in extracurricular activities with other Black kids. It was paramount because I probably would have lost myself and not even found myself even.
And so, for people that don't know you too, because I know a lot of our Winston-Salem crew are going to be watching this and they're like, oh yeah, that's Nikki. For people that are just now being introduced to Nikki, let me tell you, there's no person that I've met in my life who is so innately aware of who they are, embrace it, and do not apologize for it, which was one of the driving factors for why I wanted Nikki on Fearlessly Made You. And we've talked about this because I think one of the things too for us is where we spent time as adults in Winston-Salem, it was Nikki and I. Like we were the Black friends.
We were the pepper in the rice.
We were.
The pepper is the item that seasons the whole pot.
Yes, I love that. And I want you to keep going through, your journey and what that looked like too, because that one statement, Nikki, I think is so important because it is so powerful and valuable that you were taught so early. And I was as well, but the thing I loved the most about you is you never wavered in who you are. And I went through a little, where am I? Who am I? And I know that you probably did too, but it definitely, being around you as an adult woman in my 20s and trying to figure it out was so powerful for me because you helped bring me into the space of, nah, girl, own you, because you always did. And I don't think I've ever told you that, but I very much appreciated you for that. But please continue talking about the pepper. I know, don't tear up.
Tears over here.
But it's honest and it's truthful.
I a lot of times people will say, and this is just all people, where does your confidence stem from? How do you, know who you are? I remember being in my late teens, early 20s, college, not knowing really who I was and being jealous of people who were just walking around campus, looking like they didn't have a care in the world. Yes. And they knew their style of fashion. They knew their favorite color. They knew where they were going, what they wanted to be, all of those things. It made me insanely jealous.
Yeah. And these were in your East Carolina days when you were in college?
I didn't know. And even I had right before I left ECU, I had I don't want to call it a nervous breakdown, but it was a breakdown of some sort where I was nervous and nervous, anxious, all of those things, not excited. So the body doesn't differentiate anxiety from excitement, and it feels the same to the body. Yeah. But it was definitely
all
not excitement.
Emotions. Yeah.
Yes. So as we were all growing up, there was a formula. The formula was go to school or graduate high school, go to college, get a job, get married, have kids, live the rest of your life. Right. Okay, so
we didn't take that path.
I tried to.
Yeah.
Because I was like, that's easy. I hate math, but give me a formula. I can work with it.
Right.
But all right, let's do this formula. Let's do this thing. And that formula was not working for me.
Yeah.
So I actually followed it as far as I could. Yep. But I jumped into a whole bunch of things I feel like that weren't me. Yeah. They were the formula. Yeah. And I did go to school, which I love. I love school. I still love school.
You and me both. Yes.
I like that part. That part was great. That's cool. Graduate, get a job.
Do that. Yeah.
Right, that's fine. But what kind of job?
Yeah.
So I didn't know that you could have a job that you were passionate about. I didn't know that you could do something that you love.
Yeah.
I thought that you had to, honestly, I thought that it was a prerequisite to hate your job before you even got to it. No one said you can do something that doesn't make you a whole bunch of money right off the bat. No one said that. No one. And I kind of wish they had. I remember my sophomore year, I said to my roommate, I was like, I was an English major, by the way. And I did end up with an English degree. But sophomore year, I said, what if I change my major to hospitality management so I could be around the food?
Yeah.
And my roommate said, go ahead, do it. And I said, who changes their major to something fun?
Girl, and I want to, girl, so many things, first of all. But let's hold that, because I think that also is a really good conversation piece into how your journey has transitioned to where you are now too, which is who changes their major to something fun, who changes their journey to something fun, because knowing kind of your journey before and then knowing where you are now. And I think I'm grateful to have that privilege to have known where you were previously. I think the thing that is so cool too is in the Black community especially, and we are Black American, I have the Jamaican background, and we have all of the different backgrounds, but in the Black community especially, when you find what you can do that makes you money, you stick with it, because that was not the case, especially in the South. In North Carolina, which a lot of people don't realize, was a very segregated area, and still to a certain extent is, especially Winston-Salem. And so being there, growing up there, going to school, we both went to school in North Carolina, you find that stability because it is what people are like, yes, girl, you've made it. But making it and loving
pathway
it.
to success.
Exactly.
And I use the air quotes, pathway to success, because that's what our families and what our community wants for us.
Yeah.
Because we are the embodiment of their hopes and dreams. There's a quote. I don't know who said it first, but when I see other Black queens like yourself, Kristie, doing their thing, I always say, you are your ancestors' wildest dreams.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
It's the truth.
It is. Girl, let's cheers to that too. Like
cheers.
Yes. Because we have to, that part, yes. And keep going, because that's exactly it.
As we are. Mm-hmm. And so, I am the granddaughter of a farmer's daughter. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I am actually deeply tied to Eastern North Carolina. On my mother's side, my grandmother, she was the baby of 12, and she grew up on a farm. She promised her father she was going to stay on the farm, and she had older sisters and brothers who had moved away. Yep. And her two next older sisters, they lived in Raleigh, which is the capital of North Carolina. Yep. It was the big city. Yep. And they told her, they said, you don't have to stay on the farm. You can move to Raleigh with us. And that's exactly what she did. And she very quickly actually got a job at one of the hospitals that my grandfather got married, had children, et cetera, et cetera. And she was a homemaker. And it wasn't until after her husband passed away that she became a nurse. And so she always wanted to be a nurse, and she, got to do that. But when I decided to go to culinary school and start cooking professionally, it was excitement for my family. Yeah. That, oh, wow, Nikki's a chef. Nikki's a chef, which also is one of those jobs that goes in line with teacher, lawyer, doctor, that parents want for their children. Yeah. So my whole family, Nikki's a chef. And deep inside my soul, I didn't feel like one. Yeah. And also on that note, it's a misnomer that just because you cook food, you're a chef.
Yes.
So the word chef means chief. And in order, honestly, to be a chef, you have to manage other people. And unless you're managing other people, you're not really a chef, you're just a cook.
I love that. Yep.
But in my career and life, I have been a chef. The reason why I started to cook after culinary school is because it actually afforded me the chance to do fun, cool stuff like start my food blog, like travel. And it was a byproduct of my training. So a lot of people, when they were like, oh, you're a chef, what restaurant do you work in? This is another corollary. So in the hospitality industry, or even the school to hospitality industry pipeline, there is no infrastructure that shows students and people at large that there are other careers in the food space that have nothing to do with a restaurant, nothing to do with slaving over a hot stove for 12 to 15 hours a day, 90 hours a week. They don't tell you that. And so
that's the key too, is like no one tells you, you got to find it.
Yes, that's the key. And so when I was in school, I was, I would tell people all the time, especially my chefs and professors at school, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be a food writer. And they were like, that's smart. Because part of the reason why a lot of those chef instructors were teaching at the culinary school is because they were burnt out from their careers as chefs. They were done. They were crispy. And they were like, well, I've got all this knowledge. Let me impart it to the young people. But the one thing that they did not care about were other careers that had nothing to do with a restaurant. I mean, they had me thinking I wanted to work on a cruise ship. They had me thinking I wanted to be a caterer, knowing I didn't want to do any of those things.
And your skills are so beyond that too. Like your ability to connect with people, your ability to engage with people. And I love that you're mentioning kind of the travel piece, because I want to dive into, I want people to hear kind of the amazing experiences that you have had, because one of the cool things with Nikki and I is with our traveling. And as you guys know, I've recently moved to Atlanta so that I could travel a little bit easier. And so we had not seen each other in person in years, and we're in Atlanta airport at the same time, and just like, we're like, whoa, and came back around, and we're like, girl, where you been? And so the cool thing that I love though, and I have the privilege of knowing some of the cool things that Nikki has done, but what you are, to watch your excitement, to see this like light shine on as you're talking about, I found my path. You were able to use your English degree to help get you where you needed to, because it was that stability. But, we talk about that fearless existence of, owning your fearlessly made you journey. You were like, that's not it. There's so much more. So, enlighten our team and talk a little bit about some of the highlights of your journey, because y'all are going to want to hear, like, it's amazing. Because I think it's a really cool way to kind of wrap around where you've been, that journey in between, and now where you are. So share a little bit about like where you are.
So, I've been a food blogger for 14 years now.
Oh my God.
When I first started blogging, it was just for fun, just to get out that creative, kinetic energy that I had after graduating from culinary school.
Yes.
I got the job, yay, dream job, right? Working at the Greensboro News and Record, a daily newspaper. I thought that was going to be it. I don't know if you know anything about newspapers, but tides are turning and changing.
Yep.
Newspapers and newsrooms are not what they once were.
Yeah.
I did have a lovely 5-year stint there, but while I was working, I started the food blog, and again, just for fun. And then I don't know when the switch happened, but somebody turned on a switch and people started making money. And I was like, oh, really? Make money? Food and writing? Okay, wow. Plus money? Get out. So I began to develop recipes and write, and then social media. Social media has been a thing for a while, but got on Instagram, got on Twitter, started doing my thug fizzle on both of those. And I don't want to say overnight, but overnight I became an influencer, a content creator.
Right.
And
so it probably feels like overnight, right? When things happen, but I watched that.
It was not overnight.
Yeah. So that y'all know, like Nikki worked hard. And as she's talking about it, but it was so cool to watch her journey, because I watched the steady increase of like, oh, and I'm here. Oh, and this Food and Wine wants me. And like, I'm like, okay, girl. But it was amazing to watch.
Yes. So I, essentially, I don't want to say I stopped producing things on my blog, but I kind of did, because I wanted to focus on food writing, and food writing specifically.
Yeah.
And so I actually, being on Twitter is an amazing thing. Yes, it's a hell site, but also it's an amazing thing as well. And I got pitched to by an editor for foodandwine.com about a story about bacon grease. So what happened was, this editor tweeted something about a bacon jar that you could buy online. And she was like, there's something not right about this. And I responded and I was like, yeah, a bacon jar, you can't buy it. It has to be something that's recycled, reused. Yes. Like, it's that's like a cultural touchstone. So she DM'd me and she was like, I would like to pitch you this story about the bacon grease jar. You're the only person that can write this. Are you into it? And I was like, Food and Wine? Absolutely. So I wrote the story, turned it in, got paid. Yay, excitement, right? Then the very next day, she came back to me and she said, I have another ask. We have an immediate need for a social media coordinator. I love your social. I looked at your LinkedIn. You seem qualified. Are you into it? Can my boss send you an email? And I said, yes. 3 days later, I got the gig.
Yes, ma'am, you did.
The gig was I'm not finished. The gig was for 90 days, which is 3 months. That's it. 3 months. Soon as I signed that contract, I said, oh, they messed up. I'm never leaving. I never treated it like a contract job. I treated it like a real job. I was at every meeting, every message that came across my Slack. I responded within seconds. Like I was a beast, okay?
Yes. I love that. And I think that's a good point too, because one of the things I love about these conversations is cascading information to people, like sharing learning moments. I think that's a good learning moment. So if you weren't listening and paying attention, don't you treat your up and coming work as just a contract or something that is less than. Go at it full force, because it's going to produce, as Nikki's continuing the story, so many amazing things.
Yes. So while this is happening, my bacon grease story, it had the most unique views in April 2021. So basically, I was the most popular girl on the internet in April 2021.
Small thing.
And so my contract kept getting extended. And I kept doing all the social media. It was wonderful. It was amazing. Well, I'm not based in New York, as you all know. And long story short, I couldn't continue my role from sitting here in my lovely office in North Carolina. So they hired 2 people and they saw how invaluable I was. And they were like, we don't want to lose you. We want to keep you. So they pretty much made a position for me.
Yes. Yes.
And I moved off the social team and moved to the editorial team and became an associate editor. And my job role changed completely, but I was still beasting it out, going to every meeting, doing all the things. So
foodandwine.com. Let's be very clear as a reminder, like y'all, everyone, if you've ever Googled food, if you've ever Googled wine, like these are where this information is coming from, which is amazing.
It's the oldest food publication in America.
Yes.
It's the oldest and most respected. It's, yeah, people get Food and Wine and Bon Appetit mixed up all the time. But but yeah, it's basically the food magazine of America.
And did this magazine afford you an interesting opportunity recently?
Yes. So Thanksgiving is basically the Super Bowl for people who love food, are around food, know how to spell food, right? So when it was time to come up with the Thanksgiving package for 2021, everybody got to put their ideas into the pot. And, I put mine in. Actually, I put a couple in. Yes. And I wanted to talk about macaroni and cheese. So the theme was Thanksgiving, but make it extra.
Yes.
And I thought, what's more extra than macaroni and cheese? So macaroni and cheese, so pretty much all of us, it's ubiquitous. Like there's Easy Mac. All you got to do is add water. It's what you feed kids. It's on the kids menu. It's the thing that we're always trying to make adult by putting bacon or truffles or something on it.
Yep.
But in general, in the Black community, macaroni and cheese is on a pedestal.
Yes.
Actually, Black folks are the ones who actually first made macaroni and cheese.
Yep.
Thomas Jefferson's slave and chef, Hemmings. First name is escaping me, and I don't know why.
That's okay.
He came up with the recipe for mac and cheese. Well, anyway, mac and cheese is at every celebration. And on top of that, you just can't make mac and cheese on your own. No. You have to be appointed and anointed to make it for all of these holidays and celebrations.
Yeah, if you make it, you better make it.
Yes. So what I did was I wrote a article about this macaroni and cheese and how important it is just in general, and also to the Black community. Developed a recipe that I've been making since I was 14 years old. And Food and Wine actually asked me if I wanted to make a video. So I flew to New York and made a video making this macaroni and cheese. And the recipe and the article, well, not even the article, but the recipe was the 6th most popular recipe on the website for the entire year of 2021. And it came out in November.
Yes, ma'am.
I mean,
yes, ma'am. Talk about the pinnacle of not just making it, but like, excuse me, please step aside. Please step aside. Yes.
I mean, it was and still is to date the most spectacular thing I think I've ever done. And it was the pinnacle. At that time, the pinnacle of my career. And I'm still riding that high right now.
As you should be.
I mean,
yes. Well, and Nikki, as we think about that too, because one of the things that, and you and I could continue to talk about this for days, but we'll start to kind of close out, because I think that's a beautiful thing to wrap our heads around and to wrap our time with, is that riding that high and the pinnacle of that. I think what I would love to kind of get for you as we've walked through this journey, we've seen where you've come from, we've gotten to this beautiful place of, I'm here in this place of enjoying and being passionate about what I do my way. As you think about that, what is, as you're like giving knowledge nuggets to people, as you're helping them understand, this is my Fearlessly Made You journey, this is what I am owning, what is that one kind of lasting thought as you think about where you are now that you want people to understand about you, about what it means to be fearlessly made, about being in this space where you are right now?
Take the leap, take the jump. I haven't always been fearlessly me. I usually don't bet on things that I know that I can't win. I usually only jump into things when I know I can land on top. Leaping while with my eyes closed has been one of the most eye-opening, humbling things ever. I don't always land, but when I do, baby,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, yes.
All it takes is one. It just takes one time to leap and land, and then you got it.
Yes.
And it's yours to lose. It's yours to win. It's yours to give unto others if you feel like doing that.
Yes, I love that. I think leap and land is huge. And as we close out our time, I want to say thank you, Nikki. I think one of the things I adore about you is your passion, your love, your effervescence, but just you being you, your authenticity as a strong, Black, beautiful woman who is dominating in the food industry. And I say that broadly on purpose because you are dominating in an industry that was not made for you, but you made it for yourself. And I love that. And as you guys are taking those nuggets and taking that information, you know, I want to hold with Nikki is the associate editor at foodandwine.com. So don't forget that. Don't let that one step away from you. But also Nikki is someone who has continued to drive her Fearlessly Made You journey. And I want each of you to continue to do that as well. So as we close out this episode with Nikki, I want to say a huge thank you as well. We have a new partnership, which I'm so excited about, that I've mentioned before, but wanted to kind of mention as well. We have a new partnership with Dillard's, who has helped with my accoutrements and my ensemble. So thank you to Dillard's for being the partner for this episode and many episodes to come. And again, thank you to Nikki for sharing her wisdom, for sharing her grace. And thank you to all of you for joining Fearlessly Made You. Stay tuned for the next episode of Fearlessly Made You.